It's Friday morning in Lagos. Thank God it's Friday, right? And thank you for joining us on the program. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. The conversation is about to get deeper with a lot of in-depth analysis in the coming week, and I'll be sharing that with you before the end of the show. I have three guests this morning. I'll begin right here in Lagos with the Lawyer and Public Affairs Analyst Kabir Akingbolu. In the second half, we'll turn attention to Abuja, where Honorable Ginika Tor is standing by. She's the National Commissioner, Federal Character Commission, representing Enugu State, and we'll be discussing women participation in politics. My last guest on the show is going to be a big surprise, and I'll be unveiling him in a short while. But let's begin with some very interesting developments on the papers. Every new day there's something to talk about in Nigeria, and a lot of talk is on as regards federal government's plan to decide on what to do with fuel subsidy. Sometime last year we were looking forward to February, but now NEC is saying that it's still budgeted in 2020 budget up onto June. NLC is saying there's no going back on the January 27 protest. We've taken this path before, as far back as 2012, but we'll see how it all plays out in the coming week, and we'll continue this conversation with you next week. Lawyer Kabir Akingbolu, thank you so much for finding time to come this morning.
It's a pleasure for having me on the program.
I'd love us to begin with a bit of politics, and attention shifted to the National Assembly earlier this week when it reconvened. What the lawmakers told us was that they were going to consult with their constituents to decide how they will react to Mr. President's letter. How much of consultation did you think happened during that break?
Well, I think I know in Nigeria the way it is played, most of them go there to concretize on arrangements to go for second term, because it's a preceding year to the election year, so it's a very important one. In fact, a particular senator was was seen saying that, well, I used to buy this thing every year, but this year one is important because we are close to the election.
And so they say it publicly.
Yeah, that is the problem.
We are giving a concept bigger because it's election year.
And some other things. So consultation, that they shouldn't use that one to deceive us. But the only thing that I know is that Nigerians have seen, except we don't want to be practical. When you talk about this withholding of the president's assent, I can't talk on. I won't criticize him in respect of others, whether he has some inherent interest or whatever. But what I know is that aspect of direct primary or indirect, it has been in the Electoral Act, but it was optional. That the primary election for parties shall either be direct or indirect, which is flexible. They can use it anyhow. Now, if it favors you to use direct, use it. If it's not favorable to use direct, use the collegiate system, the indirect system. But if we insist that it must of necessity be a direct primary, the amount of money that will be spent by political parties will be humongous. The amount of money that will be spent by INEC will be horrendous. The time and the number of personnel that will be that will be needed, you understand, will be deployed to do this thing will be scary. So it is better we cut our coat according to our cloth.
Absolutely.
Now, if we do it that way, we can, because we are trying to save this democracy. But if we say it must be directed, I set an example in Anambra State during the governorship election that just finished. They did the direct primaries there, and somebody got about 175,000, 185,000. But in the general election, he got about 40,000. And don't forget, direct primaries is supposed to be amongst it's intra-party.
What do you think happened there?
It's just writing of figures. It's the thing that we are afraid of. In fact, the entire figure for the whole election is just a little above that 185,000 that they wrote for him. I've seen somewhere in Southwest also where they wrote around 50,000 votes to somebody in a direct primary election about 4 years ago. And in the real election, both the score of PDP and APC is not up to 1 million. Was not up to 1 million.
Direct primary, as democratic as it seems, is not as direct.
It's not as effective and as a positive result oriented as people will expect.
So lawmakers are saying, well, we have decided to expunge this clause, not to heat up the polity ahead of 2023.
Yes, because they are not going to be able to muster to third majority. to override the president's
That's the political
That is the
implication.
political implication.
Or the political reality.
The political reality. So you will leave Nigeria at a quandary.
However, the Senate seemed to have brought in a foreign concept to this provision. They call it consensus. It did not feature in Mr. President's letter. The only time we heard of it was in a televised interview that Mr. President had much after December, when he had, written a letter to the National Assembly. What civil society organizations are saying is that it is alien to democracy, the consensus arrangement.
No,
what are your thoughts about this?
I don't see anything that is alien there. Even right from the Greece, where we talk about the origin of democracy, all these things have to do if people have agreed. So how does it become undemocratic if there are 1,000 people in a place and 5 people are contesting, and out of the 5, the 5 of them met and said, number 2, you are better than all of us. Go and represent us. We will support you. It's even more congenial with the concept of democracy, because there is no there is no unnecessary bigotry. There are no unnecessary variegated interests that can split the party into 3 or 4.
But usually, it is cast to see people sleep and then face the same direction.
It is very, very difficult. It's rare. So, but in some rare occasions that it happens, why should we not embrace it? It is better for one. The party will not have to spend money for the primary. INEC will not have to spend so much money. INEC will just come and see, what have you done? This is what you've done. They adopt it and sign and go.
The issue of party supremacy comes to mind, because when you say consensus, it means that this is the direction the party is going. This is what we have decided to do. And then you see aggrieved members. In fact, we had a conversation yesterday about some parties saying that you do not take the party to court. The moment you do that, you are suspended. So how do we, begin to look at encouraging democratic dealings intra-party? Because it is key to our democracy.
No, let me tell you, if there is consensus, it will still be endorsed by the party, because one, our law is yet to recognize independent candidature. So you still have to belong to a particular political party before you can be fielded for any election. So because of the way it is now, if there is a consensus, most of the time, the ones I have seen, I know the party play a lot of role there internally, underground, right? Rather, so they tell them, okay, this is what we want to do. In fact, most of the time, the person that is taken as a consensus candidate is the person that the party wants. So it won't provide any issue. So they just present it to the party, and that is it. And that clause that there shouldn't be, you can't take a party to court. It's unconstitutional, it's illegal, it's not bias, and it's null and void. Anybody, the Constitution has donated the power to challenge the illegality or otherwise of anything in the court of law. You cannot restrict it except in the military rule. So if we are not in the military rule, yes, party supremacy agreed. In Rivers State, Amechi wouldn't have been governor 2 times if he had not gone to court. We have seen some other people who have gone to court and they became governor. Fayemi went to court. So many of them like that. So if you are not gagging the people and saying they can't go to court, I don't think I don't see how that will be justifiable.
So we expect to see an harmonization committee, bring the divergent views of both houses together as regards this one. But how optimistic are you that this updated document will not fuel the amount of litigation that usually characterized election?
My brother, that has been my fears. In fact, recently I did an interview somewhere I was telling them that this year is going to be so challenging for the judiciary. People say, oh, judiciary is this, is that. We criticize the judiciary, but I can tell you, of the 3 arms of government, judiciary is still far, far ahead with all the complaints that people have ahead, against them. I can tell you, in 2007, after the election, we almost got there. Maybe because when Yar'Adua came in his acceptance speech, he said that I know that the process that brought me to power was not perfect, and that I will struggle and to enhance the process that democracy can stand in Nigeria. He said this, and in the whole country then, I think no, that's 2010 rather. In the whole country, I think the whole election petitions then were about 405 throughout Nigeria. Meanwhile, in 2007 election, we have about over 5,000 election petitions were filed. So in 2010, we thought we were getting, and in 2011 rather, we thought we were getting there. Now, unfortunately, it escalated. In 2019, about 1,605 pre-election cases were filed. This time around is likely to be worse because of unnecessary gravitation and agitation for political offices. And until we make political office to be less attractive, we may not get there because everybody will be struggling to get there and do all things possible to get it. So we have to, in fact, I'm afraid for the judiciary. The judiciary now must put its feet on the ground and ensure that there's no unnecessary pressure and
how democratic is a process where, you know, leaders emerge from the courts and not from the election?
As a person, I frown at it, and I don't think it is even good. And when I talk of this, the cases of Zamfara State and that of Bayelsa State are on my mind. The one in Imo State is a special kettle of fish. No, it's a different kettle of fish. But then in Zamfara State, our court nullified over 500,000 votes and said they are invalid votes or illegal votes. And they now validated 100,000 votes to bring in a PDP member. To go by the elementary principle of law, a court cannot make order against a party who is not before the court. A party who has not filed a case or any process before the court cannot reap the benefit of a case between you and I. Mr. C will now call me, you now say, oh, the land Nifemi and Akingbolu, they are fighting on. He will now give it to Mr. Ido, who never filed anything. That was what happened in Zamfara. In Bayelsa State, the same thing. In Bayelsa State, you have found the deputy to be not to be qualified, and you now say because of that you are making the president and the governor to be unqualified. I don't agree with them, because in the case of Buhari and this Buhari, when he sued Yaradua, then I was privileged to be one of the lawyers that defended Yaradua and Jonathan. Then we raised objection to the effect that since the vice presidential candidate has withdrawn from the petition, the petition should be struck out. The court said no, they own a joint ticket. Then why is it? But the fact that the vice president has withdrawn his consent from the petition does not mean that the petition can fail. The same Supreme Court. In the case of Endi and Fayose in 2003, Fayose was found to be bearing Oluwayose when he said he became a Christian or born again. He turned Fayose to Oluwayose, Peter Ayodele Fayose and Ayodele in so many documents, and they were all brought to the court. The court said no, absico irata. I can remember Justice Nsofo said no, that anybody, what is in the name, you can bear whatever name that pleases you. So if we go by that decision, Supreme Court is wrong in the case of Bayelsa. That's what we call judicial activism. During the life of Kayode Esho, the Oputas of this world, the Nnamani, the Obaseki, and the rest of them, they did well. They will find a way to locate a solution within that law that will not nullify the election.
How well do you think things have evolved over the years? Because recently we saw the NJC, suspending or rather punishing some judges who were giving, contradicting expertise orders.
Yeah, I can tell you. The NJC, yes, I give them kudos. They have tried, but their trial is not enough. Their efforts have not been enough because it's just a slap in the wrist. Now somebody has given an order. Do you know, in some cases there were allegations that money passed and order, and even though you are trying to defend some of these things, there are times you cannot defend it. In a situation like in Anambra State, somebody left the shore of Anambra State and went to Kebbi State to file an action and got an ex parte order. Another person left the shore of Anambra State, went to Kano State and filed an ex parte order. Another person left the shore of Anambra State, went to Abuja, got order. All these orders were just flying around. It makes us to look like an unserious people, because it means you can get anything. That's why some people believe that the judgment is for the richest. Now, in this kind of situation, it's elementary principle of law they call territorial jurisdiction. Though we have one federal high court, but you can't take a matter if there is federal high court in Ekiti State. You can't bring a matter in Ekiti State to Lagos. It happened recently before one Justice Bagoro. He granted another freezing all the account of the state government in a matter that the people who brought the application in Lagos were not even parties to the case, and he granted the government of Ekiti State. If not the government, they won't be able to pay the defense salary. Now all these things, when you look at it, there's no how you can give judiciary a pass mark.
Hold on a bit. Let's take Uche's call from Kafancha. Good morning, Uche.
No, it's Chidi.
Chidi. Good morning. Yeah. Yes.
Compliments of the season.
Wish you the same. Please go ahead.
Good morning to your guests.
Thank you very much.
I am delighted in the discussion that you people are having this morning, which has to deal with the much awaited electoral reform. In my own personal opinion and view, there is no amount of reform that will be brought into Nigerian electoral process without the participants, without the stakeholders doing the right thing. For instance, a case study is about what happened in Imo State in the last general elections. If issues like this are not properly put in place, then electoral apathy, voter apathy will always be in play. And if such will continue to be in play, it is going to endanger the Nigerian political development and democratic experiment. Therefore, any electoral reform that must have to take place must reflect in such a way that these treatment given to a duly elected governor is retracted. And if it is not retracted, because they say injustice to one is injustice to all. Thank you. And God bless Nigeria.
Thank you, Chidi, for that contribution. So they say fine laws are not enough. What do you think? We have, well, the both National Assembly, both houses have now decided to, retransmit the document to the president. We are very optimistic that it's going to sign and all of that. Is that the game changer, so to speak?
It is a game changer, election. And we also must, maybe commend the National Assembly at least for whatever it is worth. If at least for them to retract, not to say, oh, since we are past it, we are not going to change our mind. And if they don't, Nigeria will be in a fix. It will be a difficult, a very tight situation. So, but again, when they are doing some of these things, they shouldn't expect it to take immediate effect. Some of the new provisions, like for instance, transmission of results by electronic means. It's only the transmission aspect. Rigging can still take place. If you want to do, people don't understand. They think that electronic voting is synonymous with electronic transmission of results. No, they are worlds apart. They are in a world of their own. Now, transmission is you have finished voting, recording, you have recorded manually. You will now send the manual, the result. You transmit it directly to the central server.
You snap it with the BVAS and then
you understand. So any irregularities can still take place. So that is not it's not too fantastic an amendment, but then at least we are getting somewhere.
But the idea is that once voting is concluded in each polling unit, yes, everyone can access the results. I think it's pretty much better than before.
Let me tell you, I am a player in electoral petition cases, for over a decade, and I can tell you that it is easier said than done. In fact, when card reader was introduced in 2011, everybody was happy. That's a new innovation, it's a fantastic innovation. Meanwhile, as at that time, Kenya has been using it for about 4 years before us. Now it worked there. But what did we get? When the case of Rivers and Taraba and some other states went to Supreme Court nullified card reader and said it's of no use. They are now not.
That's going to change now.
Yes.
If this is signed into law.
Yes, they want it to be part of the law before it can work. Meanwhile, the party section of the Electoral said gave INEC right to issue guidelines. Absolutely. And their judgments, IQ and the one and the rest of them say guidelines are as effective as the Electoral Act. So this is where the problem is. With the amendment, fantastic. If they can push it through, it can help us to get to the root of the problem.
Mazi Okora for us called in from Aruchuku in Abia State. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, Mr. Nipe. Good morning, Mr. Kamil. You see, this issue Nigerians are talking about the bill, is direct, indirect, and consensus. Look, the consensus being adjusted so that whether that they do. It's not healthy for Nigerian politics. It creates room for what we call godfatherism. Look at Nigeria today. If you don't have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you will not get a job anywhere in Nigeria. That is what they have just brought into the name. They have baptized the third one, the consensus candidate in Nigerian constitution. Say that anywhere you go in Nigeria, consensus, employment, consensus, admission into university, consensus, going to your village, consensus, local government, consensus. Now that gives the governor to the power to be intoxicated. That is, they appoint whosoever that will be senator. They will go over with the House of Reps, who will be a House of Assembly. These are the issues that Nigeria will see. Our level of this is getting higher. Nigeria is supposed to move forward. Not a question of adjust and base. Where are you getting to? What does it take for a country like ours, over 400 to 200 million, to say direct and indirect, anyone you want to pick and forget about this consensus? Consensus creates more problem, make the whole electoral act everything. What does it take? All this electronics, I think America said that for flights from Nigeria to go to America now, the 5G is another problem now. You see the clause there. 5G, another problem that has to do with flights entering America. Now, you ask yourself, other people are migrating to higher level. Nigeria is safe to live what for? The Twitter that they say they have given us everything. I don't know the latest about the Twitter. What type of country are they? Please, the authority concerned, let us move forward. This issue of it will not stand. Thank you very much, of the President.
Thank you, Mazi, for your contribution. So there's a huge trust deficit, between government and its people. The question on the mind of many is that how effective is this law, particularly when we look at democracy within the party? A few days ago, there was a report from the PDP in Ekiti, where certain governorship aspirants, protested, alleging that the former governor had written out the name of the delegates. So the question will be, yes, we have the laws, but how implementable and how does it trickle down to ensure that democracy is seen?
I can tell you,
at the grassroots. The
problem of Nigeria is not lack of laws. We have laws on everything. If you have even coat of arms, we have coat of arms act. We have camouflage this thing law. You can't use that. You cannot use army. Army color this thing. We have laws for all these things. Tinted glass. We have law. All this law. When we establish EFCC, we don't need it. When we establish AICPC, we don't need it because in our law we have SFU, Special Fraud Unit, that has the whole commissioner of police manning it. So the job being done by EFCC, they are doing it. If you talk of forensic analysis or forensic investigation and all that, they do it in Alagbon for CID. All these things are there. If you talk of road safety, we have the traffic warden in the roads in the police sector. So what we do is duplication of roads, duplication of laws, duplication of duties and personnel, which is one of the reasons why our budget are 80% in the last 10 to 15 years. All our budgets is always in debt. We have used 70, not less than 70 to 80% have been spent on recurrent expenditure. We run the most expensive democracy in the world, especially the money being collected by the National Assembly. It's humongous and ridiculous when a young graduate cannot get more than 33,000 or whatever, and some state governments are still saying it is too much. So all these things are not just it. Like the last speaker said, when you look at some of these things, it makes just like you have rightly observed, the masses, they don't trust the government again because government has not been doing what we want. But like the last speaker is saying, it is just us. It's just our peculiarity. It's just our electoral education level or whatever, or socialization level. Because in America that he talks about too, godfatherism plays a role there. If you watch the campaign, in America before the president governor comes in, 99% of the campaign was done by Barack Obama. And most of the people even like the candidature of the Democratic Party because of the personality of Obama. So there's godfatherism everywhere. But the way we do it in Nigeria is a way that we want somebody who will be a puppet, who will be a stooge, a kind of a protege that we can direct and twist anyhow. That is why you see the relationship between a godfather and his successor never lasts more than 6 months.
We talked about
in Osun,
yes.
We have seen it in Rivers, in Cross River. We have seen it in Rivers. We have seen it in Zamfara State. We have seen it in so many states. We have seen it in Abia, in Edo State, and we see counting.
It's happening everywhere.
It's happening everywhere because what the governor cannot take or could not take when he was in office, he wants to do it when...
Could that be a sign that perhaps the demise of godfatherism is imminent in this part of the world?
Well, it's imminent because you see, they killed it in Ilorin to an extent in 2019, though it's likely to come back again in 2023 because of the inability of the person who became seized of power if he's not able to manage internal crisis. Because and this APC government, they have one thing in common that is not too fantastic. Good party, the way they came in, very nice one, they have good concept and all that, but the management and the way they manage their affairs, that's why they lost Zamfara State, lost Bayelsa, lost so many other states. You will see a minister fighting with his governor, you see a governor fighting with his commissioner. In Edo State, for instance, 26 House of Assembly members, only 9 of them were sworn in. The rest of them, 17 were not sworn in, and the president was watching, the party was watching.
Let's type
today,
yes.
3 years after they have won the election, the House of Assembly members in Edo State, the governor is running with only nine members. The rest are not collecting salaries. They are not sworn in.
We're coasting home now. Let's begin to tie this up. How optimistic are you about this ongoing process? We saw the National Assembly, kick into action in 2 days. Now they have a new bill to transmit to the president. Of course, we'll have to wait to see the conclusion and the decision of the Harmonization Committee. But how far do you foresee this?
No, I am very optimistic that everything will go well. The governor, since they have main defenses, the president is likely to key into the necessary amendments that they have made, especially, banning the areas that he does not want, that he has raised concern about anyway, not that he doesn't want them, but he has some reasons. So I think it will scale through, and I think we are getting there.
And INEC is waiting on this decision to be able to release a detailed format of its timetable. Talk to us about the relevance of that, because INEC is aware of what's in this document by now.
Yes, they already have, a rules. They already have rules or guidelines based on the old laws. If the new law is coming, there must be a situation that, okay, supposing, for instance, if the electronic transmission is not possible, what happens? They must have a provision in the law in their guidelines for that. So these are the areas that they must look at. They can't just take it to client sinker and apply it like that, or make a rule and guideline ahead of the final draft of that law. It will be catastrophic.
Kabir Akingbolu, Lawyer Public Affairs Analyst, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the program today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for having me.
I feel so much like a judge who has a lawyer in his court.
That is very good.
I'm gingered this morning.
Thank you.